today. So every day we start fresh because we can't affect the past, but we damn sure can make a difference today.
Welcome back to another episode of Shop Talk. We're discussing 7-Eleven and how Bailey got her flowers by doing literally one thing in the episode. Celina went undercover for the first time and a little Chenford moments. So, we just have a little bit of news to discuss. Do you want to take us through the episode description for 713?
That's titled Three Billboards, and the description is when anti-LAPD billboards emerge throughout the city, the team searches for who's responsible. Meanwhile, a car bombing prompts an investigation. Miles reconnects with an old friend, and John and Bailey assess their ability to adopt. So that will air April 8th.
Yep. It seems good.
Mhm.
Um, and then there was a couple of interviews with Richard. I guess
Yeah,
he was the one that was doing the press this week. I like how
yeah.
lately they've done it where it's like Melissa's doing all the press one week. Liseth, like,
Hmm.
Nathan, it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
But it was Richard's turn this week, and so he t spoke with TV Line and previewed the tomfoolery in the April Fool's episode next week. And he said that there's a lot of pranks going on. Tim and Lucy's prank is a redacted spoiler in the article. I don't even know what it could be, honestly.
I have no idea.
I really don't. And I kind of like that. Like I want to go in blind. I don't want
Yeah,
to.
like there's the surprise for
Yeah.
Chenford. Is that?
Yeah. And then Richard also said that Grade's going to try to stop the tomfoolery mostly. He's kind of a buzzkill in this episode, but he's always got something up his sleeve. I'm feeling that like he's going to try to kill like any of the fun, but then be like pull one over on them like at the very end and be like, I got you
Yeah,
all April Fools.
quite possibly. I could
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. And then on a side note, Speed, the movie, I guess that Richard was in, celebrates its 31st anniversary this year. And so the episode was an homage to Speed. So for whatever that's worth. I haven't seen the movie. I should. I feel like I want to now. Um, so yeah. Do you want to take us through the TV Insider article? Well,
Yeah,
first one.
yeah, so Richard also talked about his character's mixed feelings about Seth and the hostage situation from last night's episode. Um, Gray likes to spend opportunities riding with the rookies to see where they are at in their development. So he's quoted as saying that Seth just never got that far, apparently. So, which is, I mean, that's true because like Gray
Yeah.
rode with Nolan. Yeah, he rode with Chen too.
Yeah.
Um,
I feel like he rode with Jackson too at some point.
yeah, I think so.
Did he ride with Celina?
I mean, I know they were at least paired up for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did like a full episode together because like sometimes he would just like be paired up with them and then like they'd get
Hmm.
split up and back in their like original
Yeah.
pairs.
Yeah. And then
Um,
he's rode with Aaron before too. So
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. And Richard said that Gray has mixed feelings about what happened with Seth. He understands that he's a wild card, but he actually liked him. And, you know, deep down, there's kind of a soft spot for Seth. Um, but they can't really depend on him right now, and they can't really trust him right now. And
Hmm.
he, Gray wanted Seth to do well, and it's like a disappointment that it didn't work out the way it was supposed to. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I feel like no one else in the station really got a chance to like know Seth. Like
yeah,
Gray did a little bit just because he was the lieutenant and then Chen and Tim. But it was like I feel like Nyla and Angela didn't really, you
yeah,
know? So yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like how Seth comes back because I mean we know he does. Oh, and Patrick Kelleher, who played Seth, put out like a little video about like Seth's timeline and like the rise and fall of him. And I don't know if you
Oh,
got a chance
yes.
to watch it. It was hysterical.
Yeah.
Because he
Well,
was
like
like,
all of his content's great.
oh yeah, it all is. Like you can tell that he's just so grateful to be on the Rookie.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he was like, I don't know if Seth comes back. And he like looks at the camera and looks away and looks back and
Yeah.
he's like, I don't know. We're just gonna have to find out. It was just
Yeah.
so good. So yeah, that's something else to check out. And then TV Insider did another interview with Richard about what's coming up for Grey. And Richard talked about Monica being back and his reaction. And he said it was a surprise and he was pleased and kind of in shock that Monica was involved with all this. And then on teasing what's coming up next with her, he said she's coming in full force and once again she's playing both sides of the situation. And then we're gonna start seeing Monica's storyline like develop little by little until the finale. And then in the finale, we'll see a lot more than actually find out who's behind the whole thing.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I feel like this will be kind of the new like, big storyline that's gonna take us to the finale. So and then Richard talked about what's coming up for Gray, and he said, he babysits a lot, so he's more concerned about his people and keeping them right. And he's the biggest counselor for everyone. So he's in a bit of everyone's lives with trying to counsel them and trying to guide them into success in the field and actually at home as well. And I hope to God that he talks to Tim about Lucy, and he's just like, dude, what are you guys doing? Like, please.
Oh, yeah.
Especially based on whatever prank happens next week. Like, I hope he like sits either of them down and he's like, will you just admit it? Like, just get back with each other, you know?
Yeah.
And so Richard also said Gray's got a little bit of everything going on. It's hard to say what he's doing in particular because the storyline's involved with everyone else's. And then he also talked about Oscar still being out there and what he can tease. And he said that no one's focus is to get Oscar because of course it is. But I mean, it makes sense. Like he was last seen with Jason. And
Right.
so we're still trying to put all those pieces together at this point. And then Richard talked about if we're going to see Gray going into the field more like throughout the season. And he said there's a couple of episodes where he's in the field, but not much. But come next season, he's going to push to be in the field more. So we don't have confirmation of if we're getting another season, but like that right there. Listen, if they're confident,
Manifestation.
so am I. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been confident, but yeah. Do you want to take us through the last bit of news?
Yeah. So for TV line, um, it's like the Matt's inside line
Mhm.
scoop. So Lucy said that the sergeant's exam is in a few months. With how wacky the show's timeline is, will she take that exam before the end of the season? And if so, will she find out, or will we find out how she did? So that was the question. The answer apparently is that the sergeant's exam comes up again this Tuesday, um, as does a proposal for Lucy, or the prospect for Lucy becoming a full-time TO. Um, and we saw the idea
Yeah.
that Tim put forth to, test Lucy out this week.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because this came out before the episode, so
yeah. Um, and the exchange this week was the, you know, one that one ups the I wasn't grumpy last night quote, but if people were focusing on that too much, then they would like miss something better. Which I mean, it was like a good conversation that they had.
yeah, I was gonna say what was the like one up, but I guess it was the whole like maybe you can help me study, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I guess because we saw Tim like kind of go from TO to like sergeant, doesn't Lucy need to like kind of have that trajectory too? Or no?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it kind of counts in a way, even though it like
Yeah.
for a rookie, didn't
Yeah.
go over well. Like she
Yeah.
still
Well, and
like
like
has
she's
been
also went
in the hero.
undercover quite a bit,
Yeah.
so that probably bodes well too. So
Yeah.
interesting. But with that, we'll dive right into the episode because there was a lot. There was a lot.
Mhm.
Um, Wait, should we talk about the promo though first? Because that looks
I mean, we
wild for
can,
next
yeah.
week. I mean, we
Hmm.
start off with Chenford, and
Right.
she's at his door, and they're gonna do some. They're gonna have a good night. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, it's April Fool's. Nothing's off the table. I'm like, okay, interesting coming from you. Because
Mm.
Valentine's Day, she was like, no, we shouldn't. And then like avoided the conversation. And like last night's episode, she was kind of coming around to it, but interesting.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. And then the case overall just looks crazy. So
Yeah.
I'm
It does.
wondering what kind of pranks and hijinks everyone's going to get into because I already know Harper and Lopez are working together on a prank.
Yeah.
Why not?
I
So,
feel like it'll mimic the wackiness of the 405.
yeah.
Um, anything can happen. Halloween
Yeah.
episode is what I kind of likened it to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. We haven't really had it in the April Fool's episode, so it'll be kind of fun to see how it's, how everyone's kind of played into it. So, yeah, so we'll just start off with the episode now. So we've got 7-Eleven, and we'll start off with the John Celina hostage situation. So John is dressed in plain clothes. He asks Bailey if he looks less like a cop, and she's like, no, maybe a hat will help. It doesn't though. And even Angela and Nyla are like, no, take it off. And
right.
so Bailey's looking at the average cost of adopting a child because we're going back to that. And John's brain breaks when she talks about the expenses of the process and then after they get the child, which okay, I can see him being shocked at the expenses of the process. But then, like, after the child, I'm like, you already have a grown child. I mean, you know that it costs a lot. But he tries to keep her calm and he's like, we've got good jobs with good pensions, like we'll be fine. So during roll call, Gray mentions the memo from the brass about combating crime on the buses on the metro system, and no one's read it, which I feel like I mean, yeah, that's very relatable. And so Tim briefs them and, says every division is responsible for fielding a team of plainclothes officers to ride a high crime bus or a train line to curb the number of reported incidences. So Nolan and Juarez are taking the inaugural ride today. They stand to show, like what they look like so everyone who's out there in the field will know. And Angela and Lopez or oh my God, I cannot talk today. Angela and Nyla are helping too, running point on surveillance. Chenford's gonna provide backup and a follow car, and Penn and Gray are riding together. So after roll call, Nolan and Juarez check in with each other. She's ready. She's excited. Like she is all for this. She's like, I spent all night coming up with a backstory, and Elisa is a student at Santa Monica College studying economics with a minor in romance languages, and she rides the bus to save money so she can transfer to her dream school. And so, and she's like, John, like, what's yours? And he's like, I'm Jim. I'm a contractor taking the bus because my car is in the shop. And he just like walks away. And she's like, wow, you're not prepared. And yeah, I'm at that point, I'm like, you can tell that they're on two separate like sides of the spectrum, right? Like he's done this, he's, kind of seasoned and experienced in it. And she's like, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed about it. So,
Yeah.
um, but I also love that she's put so much into it, and I hope that Lucy like helped her with it, like, okay, practice this in case you're asked that. Like, I don't know, I just hope that like Lucy kind of coached her through a lot of this. So Nolan and Juarez are in the surveillance van getting set up with their cameras on, and we find out that the bus that they will be riding on has already been like tricked out with even more cameras. And Angela mentions the DA's office and requests that they do their best to capture any incidents on camera. And I love how she was like, not that I want to make Wesley's job any easier, but can
Right.
you like, try to get everything on camera? She kind of
Yeah.
like threw a couple of jabs at Wesley in this episode, and I was like, that's just their relationship.
Yeah.
But they're just cute together. So Nyla gives them each an earpiece, then they can communicate through. And, so John tested and everyone can hear them, and Chun briefs them on their role in all of this. So when Celina and John, ID a suspect, they need to give a brief physical description and, when they're getting off the bus. And then Chenford will do the rest. So Celina and John's main goal is to keep their cover, so they should only intervene if they feel their safety or the safety of others is at risk. So Angela's like, your distress signal is, I think I missed my stop. And so they're provided their cover IDs and tap cards, and Celina's all impressed. She's like, I even got a student ID with mine. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, they got to be prepared, but also I mean, yeah, I'm impressed too. So, so they're having fun talking about like later on, like, or, like as they're kind of going on about what Miles should do to earn more money, because that's kind of a side storyline. And so the bus, that Celina and John are getting on pulls up to the stop, and they're like, okay, time to get back to work. So Harper and Lopez are right behind the bus, and Chenford's following them, and Nolan's trying to make conversation with a pregnant lady, Cassie, who's on the bus. And Tim was like, even undercover Nolan can't mind his own business. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I get it. He was just trying to be nice. But yeah.
Okay.
I loved that Tim said that though. I was like, that's very season one, Tim.
Yeah. Well, he was just like being a like a little bit of like an asshole with his comments,
Yeah, he
like
was.
this episode, but like in
Yeah.
a funny way, like not so much like harsh, but just like being
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. But then when it came to Lucy, he was like all sweet with it. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, so Lucy's like, you do know that Bailey and John are trying to adopt, right? And like parenthood's probably on his mind. And Tim's like, oh, well, now I feel like an ass. And he like takes back his comment, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't think like I would make a comment like that. I mean, we know that Nolan like likes to yap, but I mean, it is what it is, I guess. So Celina alerts everyone to a pickpocket, and John gives a description as discreetly as possible. But I noticed this on my second rewatch. It was like Cassie, the pregnant lady, kind of like looks over to him. Like she can almost like hear him or something. Um, and so she shifts in her seat and kind of looks over again. And I'm like, she's got to hear him like talking to himself almost, like kind of questioning it. So Chenford arrests the pickpocket and, stopping him on the side of the street. I love how Lucy was like, she wasn't nice and sweet about it. Like she was in a way, but she wasn't like, "Oh, I'm gonna be like so nice and stuff." She was like, "Let me see that. I didn't get a chance to read it, and then the wallet falls out
Yeah.
and stuff." So, we see the boss make another stop, and the main suspects, Joel and Tommy, get on. So for a minute, they play it cool, and then Joel pulls the gun on everyone, telling them that there's a bomb on the bus in his backpack. So Nolan and Celina need to positively confirm the explosive device, but they can't ID it yet without like breaking their cover. So Nyla calls for backup, and we go back to Chenford, who's arresting the pickpocket. So now they're letting him go. And Gray's alerted to the situation, asks if any ransom demands have been made yet, and Gray tells Angela to tell like John and Celina not to make any moves unless someone's in danger. There's even a gun on the driver. And with Tommy telling them that if the bus stops, they all die. So they blow through a lot of red lights throughout this episode, with Harper and Lopez following them. And, Joel and Tommy are talking to each other in the front of the bus, and one's annoyed that the other didn't bring the stuff to cover the windows so that like snipers can't see them and stuff. And so John asks Celina what's going on up there, and she can't really say because she's sitting like right next to this other passenger. And so she writes it down in her crossword and she like shows it to her little camera so Harper and Lopez can see it. And so their orders are still to stand down, and Gray and Penn are like we're switching spots with Harper and Lopez. And so Gray runs point from the van. Harper and Lopez, lead the investigation, and their priority is IDing these guys. So Joel and Tommy take the old man's newspapers, cover the windows with that, using water to like adhere them, and Chenford pulls up to the side of the bus, wondering when the police escort is going to be there. I want to know, like, why weren't these guys kind of like, oh, there's cops following us. How do they know to follow us? Like, sirens on, police escort, all that. Like, that just, they must have just assumed or something.
Yeah, why not? I mean, because if they covered the windows and they wouldn't like see anyone
Yeah.
coming at them. But yeah, the sirens part, I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of thought that on my second rewatch. I was like, they're not even like questioning if someone on the bus is like called
No.
911 or something.
I
Like,
think they're just so preoccupied with their plan, like that they
yeah,
have no other brain space
yeah, they have
to do
to. That
anything.
or like assume that the bus driver like pushed a button or something. I don't know. So Chenford is like wondering when the police escort's gonna be there. We see Joel talk to the guy who's sitting by Celina, Dave, and he's nervous, but we see Celina help him. And so Tim asks Lucy, who is sergeant for the day, where they should go. And she's like in the front, so we can be in the lead position. And so Joel has Dave and Celina move to another set of seats and says that if anyone crosses the line in front of them, they're going to get a bullet in their head. So he picks someone from the bus, Cassie, also the pregnant lady, to collect all of the wallets and cell phones in the pillowcase. And so she collects all of them. She seems scared. Little do we know, that
Right.
was all front. And so John tries to step up and says, whatever it is they want, he can do it for them. And so John tries to find out more information about this. They're not going to ask for a ransom. And they're just doing this for the money. There's no way that they're just doing this for the money and, the passengers' wallets. So Joel says that it's a whole lot more than that and it's all taken care of. So Cassie gives back the pillowcase and with the wallets and cell phones, and she doubles over in pain, thinking something's wrong. And Joel's like, "Here, lover boy is what he calls Sean," and he's like, "Keep her quiet." And so he like takes her back to the back of the bus. So Harper and Lopez receive a ransom demand via a 911 phone call, and dispatch sends it over. It's definitely been recorded, or the voice is
Yeah.
like masked because they have 3 hours to transfer $100 million from a crypto wallet that was seized by the FBI from Cameron Tully. The account information is coming. So Harpez gives some information on Tully, saying he's an arms dealer who was picked up in a raid a month ago. And Harper's like, I have a call into my counterterrorism buddy at the FBI to confirm the wallet's existence. And Gray's like, okay, this seems like a little odd because the crypto wallet is a like pretty, I don't know, key part of it. And like no one like they just asked for that. Um, so we find out that Tully has sold weapons to half the terrorist organizations on the planet. And he definitely has that kind of money. So they've narrowed their search to Tully's associates, and Harper will let them know if an ID is made. So Dave, who was sitting by Celina, we go back to the bus, tells Joel whatever he wants, he can get it. He works for the government. And so Celina then takes down Joel and the gun goes off, shooting his brother Tommy. Like Celina uses that moment to do that. So he ends up shooting his brother in the standoff by accident. And when he's taken down, Celina uses that moment to blow her cover. Um, John like still is just a passenger in their eyes. So Joel's freaking out, asking if a doctor is on the bus, and John says he's trained in first aid and he's brought up to help. And so, John does what he can, but I mean, that's about it that we see. And so we go back to Harper and Lopez, who have now the names of the suspects on the bus, Joel and Tommy. and they're both low-level muscle used by Tully's crew. They both have records, but nothing remotely approaching this magnitude. Most of their arrests are for assault and battery, and that they're not planners. And so Gray's like, they have to have a partner or a puppet master. And so they did track the ransom call, and it's being routed through a house on the east side. So Harpez is heading over there and meeting with SWAT. So Celina offers to help negotiate Tommy's transfer to the hospital, but Joel's like he's not going anywhere. And they're not stopping the bus. So, something's like it's just got to be figured out. So he wants Celina to tell her people that they need to get a doctor on the bus. So she gets patched through to Gray, and as soon as she's like talking to him, Joel like rips the phone from her hand and tells Gray, and Gray tells him he can't get a doctor there, but he'll get the next best thing. Enter Bailey Noon. I mean,
Yep.
she is a trained paramedic, so it makes
Mhm.
sense. But I feel like I love how like we saw more of her than like Wesley,
Mhm.
this episode. Um, so Bailey's riding with SWAT, who's gonna get her as close to the bus as possible, and she jumps from their vehicle to the bus. And we go over to Chenford, and Lucy's like, every time I think I'm a badass, Bailey shows up and says, "Hold my beer." And I'm like, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. Like, Bailey does always just have to like show up and like one up everyone.
Yeah.
Which I mean, more power to her, but at this point, like you're doing too much. You're doing too much. So Tim mentions the stunt that she did to help him a few months ago, which I love that they had that call back. And Lucy was like, "Yeah, but there wasn't a bomb on board." And Tim's like, "You're right. Totally lame." And I love how he just like had a soft smile on his face and he was like,
Yeah.
"You know what? I'm just not even gonna argue because yeah, yeah, like I'm not." And so Harper and Lopez, we go back over to them. They pull up to the house where the ransom call was made. And SWAT's running late because they were helping Bailey. And there's a for sale sign in the yards, and the house looks unoccupied. So, they're going to do a little recon on it while they wait for SWAT. So, as they open the gate to go take a look, gunfire happens, and Harpez gets down on the ground. Um, it was a booby trap. The gate was the tripwire. And so SWAT then just like conveniently shows up and they move in. Harper and Lopez are totally fine. Um, so we go back over to Chenford and they come to a stop where there's an accident in the middle of an intersection. And the drivers are just standing outside their car arguing. Well, like
Yep.
the rest of the intersection is like just waiting there. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is not an accident that happens in real life. Um, and so the drivers are arguing, and Chenford's like, "You guys got to move because there's a bus coming through and it's not going to stop." And so one of the cars moves, but the other one won't start. And so Chenford has to move it themselves. And we see the bus still moving at full speed coming through. Celina sees the accident, tells Joel that they have to stop. And she's like, if we hit the cars, the bomb's gonna detonate anyway. So like we gotta stop. And she tells everyone to brace for impact, but Chenford gets the car moved in the nick of time. Like literally as the bus speeds by, you see like the back of the car moving out of the way. And everyone's fine. So that's good. Um, so Bailey, we then cut back over to her and she's like, I can't find a pulse on Tommy. So she ends up getting the AED pads on him and they like, shock him and stuff and they find a weak pulse, but he's lost so much blood that he still needs a hospital. So Celina's trying to talk Joel down. He's like, I need the money. And, Celina questions if it's worth more than his brother. And, he has her make the call to get help. So he finally caves. Gray wants the hostages released, but Joel's like, no, I want a plane. And, how do I know that if I give them to you, like, you're not just going to kill me? And so, as a sign of good faith, Gray tells him that he needs to release 10 hostages, but Joel goes back with five, and then they end up, just releasing Cassie, a few others, Celina, and then, Tommy. So Gray makes the deal, telling Joel that like he'll get the plane and stuff. So we see SWAT going through the ransom house, and um they find like two more booby traps inside. And so Angela called the realtor. She said that the house has been sitting on the market for over a year. And with the price being cut twice, the realtor has a hidden camera that she used to, like she used for safety precaution. So they're getting the footage. So Gray, like, I was kind of confused by this because Gray had said that, he had told Penn that he had talked to Nyla and the house was booby trapped. But then like he calls Nyla and Harper and he asks how they're doing. And I'm like, you didn't know before. So I don't know, maybe like she just had texted him or something. And I loved how Nyla was like, fine, just another one of my 9 lives, like no big deal.
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, just a casual day for them. No big deal. Just getting like gunfire shot at them. No big deal. So they get an update on the bus, and Tommy's gonna help. Hostages are being released, and Celina's out too. So Chenford's leading the rescue scene. They meet up with Celina. They give her kudos. Tim's telling her she should be proud of how she handled herself. And Harper and Lopez finally get the footage from the hidden camera. And I loved how Angela was like, am I crazy? Or was this someone that was on that bus? And it's Cassie. She viewed the booby trapped house a month ago. So Tim asks where Cassie went to like another paramedic. And the other paramedic's like, I released her. She wasn't in pain. She was perfectly healthy. They end up getting her real name of Denise Summers. So going back to the bus, Joel ends up talking, goes back to talking to Gray and, asks, like, when asked about the rest of the hostages, he hangs up. So I loved how this entire episode, Penn was just sitting there, learning a lot, questioning, observing how Gray's handling everything, really observing how everyone's handling things. And I feel like it was just such a good learning experience for him. So we see Nolan staying calm during all of this. And Nolan's like, I don't think we can wait until we get to the airfield. And Gray's like, I leave it up to you. You're the last one on that bus. If you have a shot, take it. And with that, the bus tires squeal. Nolan and Joel go at it. He ends up arresting him. The bus is stopped. The way that the bus, like the other passengers in the bus clapped for him, I mean, yeah, I would probably do the same thing. But John was like, I'm hero of the day. Like, I'm gonna smile while I'm handcuffing. I was like, okay, you can have your glory in a minute, but like, can we just get everyone off this bus? This guy taken away. Like, let's just like finish it up here. So Nolan gets an update from Gray on Tommy, who's touch and go. And when he asks about Cassie, Gray's like, yeah, we gotta talk about her. Um, so units are headed to her last known address. There's Bolo out for a car. We see her getting in said car, which was a rookie mistake from step one because she should have had a different car. And she's in Dave, the FBI guy's wallet and taking his card that has a lot of data on it and putting it like in her phone like she's got it like hooked up. So Chenford's out searching for her and Lucy's trying to analyze the situation and she's like, why would Cassie/Denise put herself in this, questioning why she would even bail before she gets the money. And Tim's like, maybe she wasn't after the money. And so Lucy's like, well, what else could she want? And so we cut over to Cassie/Denise finishing the upload of the data and then calling Monica. Monica is back.
Well,
And we see Denise like tell her that she was right about everything, even the hostage release happened about a half mile from where she planned, where she said. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, because Monica planned it. Monica is behind all this because why would they just like randomly pick Denise to get the data or to get the phones? And they had to have known that like an FBI guy was going to be on the bus, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. It was so random because like, I mean, FBI people don't just ride the bus just to ride it. So it's like Denise and Monica had to have planned her getting on that exact bus. And like, how
yeah.
else would she have gotten the phone and wallet if there wasn't this situation. I don't know. I think Monica's behind the entire thing. And I think the guys didn't know, but like they had to have because they chose Cassie out of everyone. And that was before she even like, made a huge deal about like her being in pain. So yeah, two and two's not adding up there, but I think Monica's behind it all. She's got to be because it just
Yeah.
seems very planned out. So Denise asks her about the card, and and she's like, as soon as it's reported stolen, isn't it just going to be useless? And Monica's like, the card has a lot more information on it than just his login credentials. No one's gonna assume that it's been stolen to be data mined. Okay. I mean, I feel like people will, but whatever. And so Denise asks where this guy works, and Monica's like, you're being paid a lot of money to not ask that question. And Denise gets out of the car to dump the wallet. And so she's like, asking Monica when she can expect the rest of her money. And she ends up hearing sirens, and Monica and her hang out, but not before Monica's like, the money is contingent on you being silent, as is your child's life. And Denise drops the phone, falls like underneath the dumpster. So Chenford arrests Denise. There's no other like searching the crime scene, not that we see at least. No other questioning, nothing that we see. And I'm like, I feel like we are going back. We have to be going back to this. We have to be. So Harper and Lopez are talking to Wesley at the end of the day, or what we can assume is the end of the day. And he's giving Angela shit for like not telling him about her day and not hearing from her. And he's like, yeah, I stopped by the station and was wondering if you were going to text me at some point. And Angela's like, why would I? We were nowhere near the bus. And Angela's like, or Nyla's like, yeah, it was just another day of boring detective work. And Wesley's like, yeah, okay. And he brings up the ransom house, and Angela's like, that was us. So, and Angela's like, if I called you every time I almost died, my battery wouldn't last throughout the day. And Nyla's like, just do what James does. Assume that no news is good news. And Angela's like, blissful ignorance is the secret to a happy marriage. That and food. And she's like, by the way, what's for dinner? Which, I mean, same. Whole mood right there. And he's like, I didn't really have that figured out yet. Maybe Chinese food. And that's it that we see for Lopez, which I'm glad that we got a little bit of it. And it was a cute moment. So we see Celina waiting at the station. She's just like sitting on a bench, trying to ground herself after the events of the day. And her and John talk, and the adrenaline is still pumping for her. I mean, it was her first undercover case. And she had said that after she heard he was off the bus, she just kind of let it all go. And John's like, go home, get some rest. You've earned it. Like, you've had a big day. She gives him a big hug, and she's like, I'm just happy that you're safe. And that was such a sweet moment. I was like, okay, they've really become close. And like, she really, I mean, like, it was in it was in the after show interview that she did. Like, Celina really looks up to John and Lucy for advice and just like kind of support.
Yeah.
And you can tell with John and Celina. So he's like, what's the worst that could have happened? Other than being blown up or, but like, torn into shreds from shrapnel and stuff. And so he starts listing all these other situations. And he's like, maybe I should sit down. I'm like, just be lucky, like that no one got hurt. So Nyla walks up and, says Denise didn't say anything actionable. And they haven't been able to find a connection between her and the hijackers. And even Joel has stated that he had no idea that she was involved, and unfortunately, Nyla believes him. So the entire case is entirely circumstantial. And Denise's lawyers are already putting pressure on the DA's office. And, if they can't find something that's concrete that connects her to the bus hijacking or the booby trapping, then they may have to let her go. And I'm just like, of course her lawyers are putting pressure on the DA. Her lawyers were likely hired by Monica. I mean, no doubt about it, for sure. So, so John's like, there must be something to charge her with. But Nyla's like, be my guest because there's nothing that we can charge her with. We can't charge her with pretending to be pregnant. So before Nyla walks away, she's like, I heard that Bailey made the news. And she's like, tell her to leave a little glory for the rest of us, please.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you. Someone else finally saying it. Like, please let her just have, like, let her not like outdo everyone. It's getting old at this point. Like, and I don't have a problem with her, but when it's like pushed like this, it's getting old. So, John and Bailey are at home watching the news. Oh my God, this part, I was like, seriously, we're really doing this. So they're watching the news. The story about her jumping from the SWAT vehicle to the bus is airing. Because why not? Why not?
Yep.
It can't be about the bus. It can't be about like Celina, taking someone down. It can't be about John taking someone down. It's got to be about Bailey jumping from one vehicle to another. Because that is something that we need to talk about. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It couldn't have been about the wildfires a few episodes ago. Nothing. It had to be about that. I don't know. To me, I was like, this is something we did not need. I'm sorry, we did not. But it sets up for, Bailey asking if they should tape it. And I love how John was like, you mean on like a VHS?
I
And
know he's so old. I
and
was like,
Bailey
oh
was
my
like,
God.
I don't know, like how people do it now. I'm like, you guys don't even know how to tape. So why are you even talking
Well,
about this? You can look it up on YouTube, I'm sure. I'm sure of it. And so she's like, so we can show our future kid that their mom was a badass. I think that the future kid is going to know that from the other 70 billion tasks that you do.
mhm.
I'm sorry, but I'm sure that they will figure that out. And John's like, I could probably get the dash cam footage. Okay. I weren't you, I don't know. Like these two are just, yeah. Yeah. And so then he questions if the social worker will think that the stunt was badass or reckless. And she's like, badass for sure. For sure. And then they watch it again. And I'm just like, yeah. So Bailey gets the flowers for that. But if Angela, Nyla, Lucy, Celina, anyone else were to do that, would they get that recognition? Because Lucy didn't when she saved him's life. I don't know. I
Right.
was just like, okay. Yeah. I clearly
Yeah,
have
that's
feelings about
fair.
that. So,
I mean, it's a fair point though.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm like, I'm glad that Nyla and Lucy both brought it up of like, God, she's always like one-upping everyone. Like, I'm glad. Like, I'm glad that it's not just fans that see it. Like, it's, the characters too. So, and they said it in like a joking way, but still.
Right.
So, all right. I am done yapping. Do you want to take over for Lucy and the sergeant's exam?
Oh, sure. So we see Lucy talking with Tim, and she says she missed the 5% pay bump that came with being a TO, saying how it was her fund for things like massages, a cleaning lady, and facials. And Tim suggests that she, can take the training officer exam in a couple weeks. But Lucy wants to focus on the sergeant's exam and not become a full-time TO, especially after the whole Ridley situation. Um, and because that really caused her to have uh, doubts in her abilities and
Mhm.
what she, like, how she would be as a training officer.
Which is
Um,
fair, but I also feel
yeah,
like she can't like count out future rookies just because she had one bad experience,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. But obviously we got to see her throughout this episode, take the lead a couple times. And so we then see Tim ask her how, her first day of sergeant practice went, and she thinks she's natural. Tim said that ordering people around is one of her gifts. Um, and then, well, Lucy's response to that was, it's not like he's complained. Um, and so she then questions if that response sounded flirty or not because they're just coworkers, even though Tim didn't mind the flirty tone. Um, she then, it kind of was like a little bit of awkward silence. And then she says that, she's not seeing anyone or looking to see anyone, and neither is Tim. And they both agree that there need to be boundaries because Lucy still hasn't totally forgiven Tim yet, but when she does, maybe he can help her study, and he's looking forward to it. So again, the promise of studying for this exam.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and like I mean, I feel like it was good because they did have a conversation. Um, I just wonder if things are going to get awkward in next week's episode.
Yeah.
Like if something does happen between them and then Lucy, like I just don't want to repeat. I don't want a repeat of Lucy like just bolting out and them not
Mhm.
having a conversation.
Yeah.
Um, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah. But we also know how the last time she was studying, Tim was like, all right, I'm gonna, kind of not, I'm gonna get you out of the stress. Like,
Yeah,
we all know how
that's
that
true.
goes, you know? Yeah.
That's true.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
hey, I'm all for it. Give me whatever Chenford content there is, give it to me. I'm here for it all.
right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then I mean that was pretty much it for them.
Yeah. Like Chenford specific stuff.
Yeah. And then moving on to Miles and Gray, which is also one of the like side storylines. And towards the beginning of the episode, we see that Gray gives Miles an envelope and says that he's been served. Miles is surprised to hear that he's being sued, but Gray tells him they'll deal with that later and to go set up the shop. Like they are the pair that's writing together today.
Mhm.
And um, in the shop, Miles asks Gray if there's ever been a time where a rookie can get like special permission to take another job during their probation. And Gray says, nope, rookies give their training their full attention. And apparently, Miles' ex girlfriend's dad is suing him because he lent him money after his injury, like to
Mhm.
get them, to get things squared away and like help get them settled and on their feet and things like that. And now that they are no longer together, he wants the money back. And apparently it was $10,000. And Miles still needs more time to get that money. He tried asking his ex's dad, but then the envelope showed up with the lawsuit. So obviously that didn't go well.
Yeah.
Um, and Gray said that Penn can't ask a judge for more time because if he went to court and the judge ruled against him, he'd be considered financially vulnerable and would be washed out of the
Yeah.
program. So it's like a lose-lose situation for him
Yeah.
at this point, honestly. Um, and we got suggestions of, you know, Tim saying he could rob a bank to get the $10,000, and Greg goes on the channel 12 or whatever to ask
Yeah.
suggestions for Miles, and Lucy said, well, maybe he can sell something, and uh so Miles was like, not selling my car, which is still his house, even though he lives in the Shangri-La. So I guess it's just like his car as opposed to a trailer. Like he
Yeah.
didn't get his own trailer. It's just his car
Yeah. It
with
has
all
to
the
be.
trailers, I guess.
It has to
Yeah.
be.
Um, and so, but Penn also apparently has this championship ring. Um, but he says, that's not for sale. Um, Tim says, well, maybe you should consider it, kind of versus being homeless or jobless. Um, and so we don't like Jennifer said earlier, we see, Miles observing Gray throughout the
Mhm.
episode, and they don't really talk about this specific issue until later,
No.
way later in the episode.
But it was funny how at one point when they found out that it was like 10 million, Miles was like, "Do you think that they'll notice like, a couple
Right. He
thousand
was,
like being taken?" And Gray's like, "Yeah, I think so." And I'm like surprised that Gray wouldn't like go after him a little bit more for even like suggesting that. But I was also like, well, Gray's dealing with a lot, so.
mhm.
But did
Yeah.
you catch when Angela told Tim not to be a ass or something? I was like,
Yep.
she called him Timothy. I was like, oh, we got that call back.
Yep.
So,
And so later Miles tells Gray that he listed the ring on eBay and he's already got 10 bids. And he said it wasn't as difficult as he thought it would be to part with it because it's something from his past. So it's like time he let it go. And Gray kind of, reaffirms that Miles' heart is in policing, and yes, it is, and apparently barbecue. Um, because Miles said he's perfected a new dry rub that he uses on ribs when he's at the Shangri-La. And Gray says that he's the, like grill master, but it seems Miles is up for the challenge. And like the two share a laugh about that um, in the surveillance van. So,
I need a
um,
cook-off, a barbecue
right.
cook-off between them. In
Yeah.
Shangri-La too. Let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Smitty will be the referee because then he just gets to eat.
Yeah, there you
There you
go.
go.
There you go. And everyone else can stand around. It'll be our little fun family moment of the season. Fine. Totally cool. Do it.
Yeah.
I need the cook-off. And Smitty and Angela can be the judges, you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Overall, this episode was pretty solid. I mean, we had some body cam footage, small doses for Chenford. We got to see Miles with someone else, partnered
Mhm.
with someone else. Celina going undercover for the first time. Like it was a pretty solid episode. I feel like there were times when it was like this again, or like, okay, we're doing this, but it was good. It
Right.
was good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for next week.
Mhm.
Yeah. But we don't have any listener thoughts this week. Totally cool. So with that, I mean, we don't have any other notes on the episode. So,
Nope.
yeah, so you guys can find us on Twitter at the Shop Talk Pod _ or email us at shoptalktherookiepodcast@gmail.com with all of your thoughts. You can find us individually on Twitter as well. I'm at jsark804.
And I'm at Carrie Hyman.
And we're on TikTok at Shop Talk Podcast. Be sure to check out our merch at shop-talk.dashery.com. There's some fun designs coming there soon. And until next week, bye everyone.
Bye, guys.
Go get him, boo.